Welcome to AHRC TV's weekly roundup. In this week's program, AHRC TV brings you the following stories. Gerald Perera's killers sentenced to death in Sri Lanka. Gerald's widow Padma voices her reaction. Students arrested for speaking out in Thailand. June 26 marked in Indonesia, Pakistan, Bangladesh. AHRC TV speaks with Javeria Yonas. Welcome to AHRC TV's weekly roundup. I'm Josephina Bergsten. The program begins in Sri Lanka, where a sub-inspector and his assistant have been convicted and sentenced to death for the murder of Gerald Perera in November 2004. Negombo High Court Judge MZ Razin pronounced the verdict on the 23rd of June against Sub-Inspector Suresh Gunaratne and one of his assistants. Another case of torture is pending against the same sub-inspector and several other police officers who were attached to the Wattala Police Station. Gerald Perera was randomly arrested in a case of mistaken identity in a murder inquiry in 2002 and was severely tortured to extract a confession. Gerald suffered kidney failure as a result of the torture and was subsequently in a coma for 3 weeks before incredibly regaining consciousness. Gerald and his wife Padma were intent on pursuing justice against the police officers who tortured him. Gerald was assassinated by Suresh and his assistant on a bus while traveling to work just a few days before he was to give evidence at the High Court of Negombo relating to the torture that he had suffered. The verdict in the murder case has arrived after 10 years of indictment. Given the limited number of actual working hours spent on the case in court, the case could have been resolved years earlier had the trial been heard on a day-to-day basis. Despite the successful conviction, one mystery remains unresolved. The team that was led by Sub-Inspector Suresh, which arrested Gerald Perera, was working under the direction of the Assistant Superintendent of Police. No attempt has been made to investigate the responsibility of this assistant superintendent. Nevertheless, the successful conviction of these two accused is itself proof that criminal investigations can be conducted without the use of torture in Asia. The two accused were never subjected to any torture or ill treatment. The Asian Human Rights Commission does not support the death penalty. However, the AHRC is aware that Sri Lanka has an abstentionist policy and does not, in fact, execute convicts with death sentences. Following the pronouncement of the stunning verdict, AHRC TV spoke with Gerald Perera's widow, Padma, who has been fighting for justice for her murdered husband for more than a decade. Here is Padma.
ගොඩාක් සතුට වෙනවා මේ තීන්දුව ගැන. ජයග්‍රහණය මා තනිය ලබාගත් එකක් නෙවෙයි මේ ආසියාතික මානසික සම්පත දැක්වීම මහත්යාගේ උපදෙස්කාරී සසිත් කාන්තිය මහතාගේ මැදිහත් වීම මත ජයගත් ජයග්‍රහණයක්. ලංකාවේ රයිට්ලයිට් සංවිධානයේ පිළිස් දිසානායක මහත්තයා මේ ලේකම් එතකොට බිතෝ මහත්මයා සභාපතිතුමා ඒකසන්න මහතා විලාසිනී නෝනා නීතිඥ උපේන්ද්‍රා මේ වසන්ති මහතා ගොඩක් අය මට මෙතට සහායකය දැක්වුවා. හිතේ තියෙන බිය තරමද්දුරට නැති කළා මේ මගේ මහත්තයාට උන අසාධාරණ වෙනුවෙන් සටන් කිරීමට හැකියාව ලැබුණා. මට ඒ අයට සෑහෙන එක තමයි මම සෑහෙන හිතට ශක්තියක් ලබා දුන්නේ. ඒ වගේම මම හිතුවා මේ මගේ මහත්තයාට වෙච්ච දේ මටත් වෙයි කියලා. එන්නේ මගේ දරුවෝ තුන්දෙනෙක් හිතා කුඩා නිසා තාත්තා වගේම අම්මත් නැති වුණොත් ඔවුන් මෙලව තනි වෙයි යටිහිතේ ගින්නක් ඇවිලින් තිබුණා. නමුත් මේ මහා පරිමාණය අසාධාරණයි. මට වෙච්ච දේ තවත් කෙනෙකුට හැකි වෙන්න මගේ දරුවන්ගේ තාත්තව නැති කලේ නරුමයන් වෙනුවෙන් කිය යුතුමයි. අධිකරණය ගැන විශ්වාසයක් නොතිබුණොත් ආත්ම විශ්වාසය හා ආත්ම ශක්තිය ගොඩනැගී තිබුණා. මරණය පිණිපෙනී එම නඩුවට මගේ සම්පූර්ණ දායකත්වය ලබා දුන්නේ මගේ මහත්තයාට වෙච්ච අසාධාරණ හේතුවෙන්. දැන් කියන අධිකරණයේ තත්ත්වය අනුව අධිකරණයේ සාධාරණ නැහැ කියලා හිතුවේ නැහැ. නමුත් මේ මම දන්නවා සත්‍ය කවදා හරි ජය ගන්නවා කියලා. මම සෑහීමකට පත් වෙනවා මේ තීන්දුව ගැන සෑහීමකට පත් වෙනවා. ගොඩාක් සෑහීමකට පත් වෙනවා. මම කියන්නේ දැන් මේ වගේ අසාධාරණයක් වුණාම නිශ්ශබ්ද වෙන්න එපයි කියලා. කියන්නේ මේ වගේ දෙයක් නම් කිසිම කෙනෙකුට කිසිම ගෑණියෙකුට මට වගේ නම් කිසිම ගෑණියෙකුට සිද්ධ වෙන්න එපා. සිද්ධ වෙන්න එපයි කියලා ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරනවා. හැබැයි දෙයක් යම් කිසි අවාසනාවකට සිද්ධ වුණොත් නිශ්ශබ්ද වෙන්න එපා. මගේ මහත්තයාගෙන් මම යුතුයකම ඉස්ස කළයි කියලා මම සතුටු වෙනවා. අනිත් අයගේ සහයෝගයත් එක්ක මම ඇත්තටම මේ දැන් මේ වගේ සංවිධාන වලට මේවා නීති බලයට ගිහිල්ලා කියන්න ඕනේ.
Next, AHRC TV turns to events in Thailand. 14 university students in Thailand have been arrested by the police on allegations of sedition and for allegedly violating the ruling junta's existing ban on political assemblies. The students, supported by many others, were taking part in a peaceful anti-coup rally and were protesting for an end to military rule and for a return to democracy. They had also staged various protests in Bangkok throughout the week against the junta. On May 22nd, the Thai police also arrested upwards of 40 protesters in provinces all over the country for holding peaceful rallies. This has been the biggest crackdown on dissent since the junta took over Thailand a year ago. After usurping the previous democratic government last year, military leaders of the junta, known as National Council for Peace and Order, have asserted that the coup's mission is to restore democracy in Thailand. This has yet to be realized, as the military junta has cracked down on all kinds of dissent and stifled free speech and debate in the country. The European Union has issued a statement calling the unjust arrests of the student as a disturbing development, and the UN Human Rights Office has urged the government to release the 14 students and drop the charges against them. They are being held in the Bangkok Remand Prison and the Central Women's Correctional Institution as they await trial. Each student is currently facing a maximum sentence of 7 years in jail. For more on this story, AHRC TV spoke with Livelihood Award Laureate Susil Sivaraska in Thailand, who has been assisting the student group.
So the students that were arrested, do you see this as an escalation in the repression from this military junta government?
That's quite right. Yes.
Yeah.
It is.
Can you describe that a little bit more, why you say that?
Because the junta just want to show that they have power. And not only the students, now they also want to arrest me, which is something unusual, because they have tolerated me for over a year. But those students were arrested at my office. And so I don't know, they thought I'm behind the student movement or not, I'm not quite sure. But on the 22nd of last month, I gave a lecture at a private university. 4 of us and all others except me were told to meet the police at the police station on the 9th of this month. All of them except me. So obviously they want to indicate me as the one who defaming the king. You know, we have the law, criminal law, Article 112. Anybody accused by this law usually end up in jail. I have been accused by this law many times, but so far I have won the cases. But now they seem to use this law against me particularly. Perhaps because they link me with backing the student movement. I'm not quite sure. But for me, if they did so, it's going to backfire seriously against them.
There's been a lot of public statements from the EU and UN to urge the government to release the students. Do you think this kind of pressure has any effect on the military, or what else can be done to put pressure?
It does have the pressure, does work, but they tend to ignore it on the surface. But I think it disturbs them. The best thing to do is try to be gentle, try to be reasonable, and don't use any strong accusation. I think they would listen much more carefully with that sort of skillful means in telling them.
Now over to Indonesia and events around International Day in support of victims of torture, which took place on June 26. The Commission for Disappearances and Victims of Violence, also known as CONTRAS, in cooperation with the Asian Human Rights Commission, organized 2 days of public events in Jakarta. In the first day's event, CONTRAS and AHRC conducted a seminar and released an annual report on the situation of torture in Indonesia. The speakers at the seminar included the Commissioner of the Agency for Victims and Witness Protections, a senior journalist, a representative for the Ministry of Law and Human Rights, and the police. The seminar was attended by around 100 participants, including torture victims, journalists, students, and human rights activists. June 26 was also marked in Pakistan, with events in Karachi, Lahore, Haripur, and many other districts of Pakistan. The AHRC, with the support of local and international rights-based organizations, has been striving to create awareness and mobilize the masses against the heinous practice of torture in custody. As civil society and parliamentarians participated in these events, many deplored the fact that despite the ratification of the UN's Convention Against Torture, no law has been enacted in Pakistan to discourage the practice of torture. The events attracted international participation. Representatives from the European Union and OMCT attended the events. A research book on torture titled Custodial Torture, Its Ramifications and Failure of Institutions was formally released during the events held in Karachi and Lahore. Joining AHRC TV in the studio is AHRC's Pakistan intern, Javeria Yunus. She will tell us more about the events around June 26. Welcome to the studio,
Thank you for having me.
How rampant is torture in Pakistan, and why is it still so prevalent?
Torture itself, it's quite prevalent in Pakistan because of the fact that police in Pakistan still operates under the pre-colonial era legislation, and they are under so much pressure to investigate crime that they resort to torture as a mean of extorting confession, because in Pakistan the forensics is not as developed as in the civilized countries, so they have to resort back to torture.
So how does the criminal justice system itself perpetuate this system of torturing?
Criminal justice system in Pakistan accepts confession, which are extracted in terms of through torture, as the Evidence Act of Pakistan specifically objects to the fact that no statement under confession can be taken. Yet a lot of police officers, in the face of the fact that there's a lack of forensics in Pakistan, and there's absolutely no development in these departments, they have to resort back to these confessional statements, and judiciary, knowing the fact that these people have been tortured, accept these confessional statements, and as a result of that, a lot of people have been hanged. There was a recent case of a person who was hanged, and though he recanted his statement after that, the judge refused to listen to him and refused to reopen and re-examine the case, and he was hanged. He was sent to the gallows as a result.
So what steps could be taken in order to reduce the instances of torture?
Well, first and foremost, the government should show the political will to enact police reforms, specifically in terms of the Sindh police and Punjab police, where the torture cases are most rampant. And police reforms are something which the politicians themselves are opposing. A lot of political mileage is taken from these police officers who act as mercenaries to these politicians to extract revenge from other opposing political parties also. So politicians themselves are not interested in implementing any police reforms.
Okay, so finally, why has the government of Pakistan failed to enact the Anti-Torture Act?
Again, Pakistan being a militarized state and becoming a police state does not want to enact torture bill, because if they do, they will have to implement certain reforms whereby they will not be allowed to torture someone, and they might have to let go of that person. So currently the politicians, the judiciary, the government itself are opposing the enactment of this law on the fact that current law and order situation does not demands us not to enact a law such as the anti-torture law in Pakistan.
Okay, thank you, Javeria, for coming.
Thank you very much.
AHRC TV stays with the subject of torture for the Roundup's final story from Bangladesh. Dozens of victims of torture have taken to the streets in Bangladesh to demand justice. The victims and their families joined human rights defenders to raise their voices against torture across the country on the occasion of UN's International Day in support of victims of torture. To commemorate this day, the Asian Human Rights Commission and its partner Oidikar, a Bangladesh-based human rights organization, jointly organized programs on June 25th and 26th in different parts of the country. Prominent human rights defenders, academic scholars, jurists and victims of torture participated in a discussion at the National Press Club in Dhaka. Among many others, human rights advocate Adilur Rahman Khan, rights activist Mohammed Noor Khan, Rights Livelihood Award laureate Dr. Zafrullah Chowdhury spoke in the meeting. Torture victims Babul Akhtar and Junayed Hussein Leon shared their painful experiences of suffering torture by law enforcement agencies while in detention. The wife and daughter of Mahmudur Rahman Mana, a civil society activist who is currently arbitrarily detained and has been tortured in custody, shared their dreadful experiences regarding the violent law enforcement system in Bangladesh. Elsewhere in Bangladesh, torture victims and their supporters took to the streets in many district headquarters to demand justice for torture inflicted by law enforcement officers. Here is Right Livelihood Award laureate Dr. Zafrullah Chowdhury at the meeting. That is all for this weekly roundup. For more on these and other issues, please visit www.humanrights.asia. Thank you for watching and see you next week.